What is going on YouTube? Espresso Shucko here, and today I wanted to talk about Mega Raichu because the little rodent that could is a lot closer to champions than you might have realized. But that said, this feels like it's old news because I saw this notification when I signed into the game yesterday. But Mega Raichu is coming June 17th as part of a celebratory campaign for the release of the mobile version of Pokémon Champions. So you'll be able to get Mega Raichu X and Y on both Switch and mobile versions of the game starting June 17th and going until September 2nd. And the nice thing here too is it's on both versions of the game. If you didn't start Champions when it came out on the Switch in April and you're starting it out fresh in June on mobile, well, you've got access to 2 free Mega Stones and Raichu, which Raichu is a pretty good Pokemon in its own right as far as support goes with the Focus Sash, access to Fake Out, Nuzzle, Electroweb. It's got plenty of great tools that you can use even if you're not looking to use the Mega form. But that said, we're talking about the Mega form today because we also got confirmation of what the abilities on these guys are. Mega Raichu X is going to have access to Electric Surge, which means we now have a terrain setting ability coming, which means we could possibly see Rillaboom, Pinkerton, Indeedee coming to Pokemon Champions, probably not far behind it, which that would be fun to see things mix up. I mean, being able to just absolutely snipe a Basculegion with a Grassy Glide off of anything, whether it's Rillaboom or just a partner Pokemon, that's going to be nice. Am I going to be looking forward to Psy Spam? Not really, but it's part of the game. We can see what happens there when we get Psychic Terrain back. And honestly, I mean, Indeedee is probably one of my favorite Pokemon to use on a team. So, I mean, I would be happy to have access to female Indeedee again, to have that Follow Me support. But anyways, Mega Raichu Y does not have any terrain abilities. It has no guard, which is going to be absolutely diabolical because I didn't realize this thing got access to Zap Cannon, and it also gets access to Focus Blast. So Mega Raichu Y, that's going to be scary coming off of a base 160 special attack stat. So what I wanted to do here was I wanted to put a little bit of a cut right here to talk about today's partner and then talk about some notable moves that these two get. So we'll see you in a little over a minute.
I want to be the best, and that's why I work with the best, which is where today's partner, Cheeky, comes into play. Cheeky's all moisturizing formula makes their soap the best soap around. It lathers up exquisitely in the shower and it leaves your skin feeling refreshed. I guarantee it will become your new favorite way to shower. It certainly has become my favorite way to shower since using it back in September for the first time. And use my code SHUCKO to grab yourself an order of Cheeky soap for 10% off. Now, my battling can sometimes use a little bit of work, but that's not the case for Cheeky. Cheeky goes to battle for me in the shower here because it challenges the Grimer odor that's been building up overnight to a battle, and not only does it flawlessly win, it leaves me feeling refreshed and smelling as if I've been out frolicking with the Blossom, which who doesn't want that? You will certainly enjoy the way how your shower game will level up and evolve as time goes on. So what are you waiting for? Head over to usecheeky.com/shucko to grab yourself some Cheeky soap for 10% off. Thank you to Cheeky for partnering with me for today's video, and let's dive right back on into it.
So Mega Raichu X, with its stat spread, access to a hard-hitting stab move, setting up terrain, and having access to a pivoting move, not to mention access to Fake Out, makes it feel very similar to both Rillaboom and Incineroar. The nice thing it's got going over the two of those Pokemon is it's basically faster than both, with Incineroar being at base 60 speed and Rillaboom being around 85. Mega Raichu X has a base speed stat of 110, which is relatively handy, seeing as it doesn't really have the bulk compared to the other two. It's got a low 60 HP and then 95 in both of its defenses, but it does have access to a nice whopping 135 physical attack stat, which means that Volt Tackle is certainly going to be hitting all the harder. This thing is going to scare some Charizards if they don't have Lightning Rod support next to them, because you can basically just blast them off of the field with a nice stab electric terrain boosted Volt Tackle. So you do have that working in your favor. You have Volt Switch, which is going to be able to allow you to pivot out and do a little bit of chip damage. Not that it's going to be hitting all the harder, because this is coming off of Raichu's weaker 90 special attack stat. So you might be potentially running a Jolly Nature, which means you might be having that a little bit of a hindering stat alignment working against the Volt Switch, but being able to pivot out, break a Focus Sash, and then come back in later and reset up your terrain is going to be relatively nice. At the end of the day, this thing gets access to Trailblaze, so it could potentially boost up its speed while having a little bit of Grass-type coverage for some Ground-type Pokemon. That said, Ground-type Pokemon, there's a lot of bulky Ground-type Pokemon out there, so Trailblaze might not be the hardest hitting option, but being able to raise up your speed and then be able to fire off that Volt Tackle might be worth it. So maybe even just having that Follow Me or Rage Powder support, just so that Raichu can speed itself up, and then go for a big Volt Tackle later, that might not be too bad. As far as Electric-type coverage goes, it's got Volt Tackle and Wild Charge. Basically, there's no real reason to run Wild Charge over Volt Tackle unless you want less recoil. Like, it is a third of your recoil coming off of Volt Tackle, but Volt Tackle hits a lot harder at 120 versus Wild Charge at 90. You do have access to Thunder Punch, which does benefit from both the electric terrain as well as natural stab. So, I mean, potentially, if you wanted to, you could run Thunder Punch in addition to Volt Tackle, soften something up with the Thunder Punch, break a Sash, and then finish them off with the Volt Tackle. Hypothetically, that might work. Nuzzle's a great support move that can paralyze the target and also breaks a Focus Sash, so you do have that little bit of chip. You have access to Dig, not that that's necessarily good in VGC formats typically, but I mean, you do have some ground type coverage right there. You've got Drain Punch for a little bit of sustainability, so maybe with some Helping Hand support, you might be able to do some funny things with Volt Tackle's recoil and Drain Punch giving you back a little bit of HP, but you're probably going to need to be able to boost up Raichu's attack stat in one way or another, whether it be Helping Hand or Coaching. But Brick Break is a really good option to keep in mind because Aurora Veil is a thing, Reflect, Light Screen, those screens in general are all a thing that can mitigate your damage output. Having a means of being able to break them is certainly nice. It would be kind of nice to see Brick Break get a little bit of a buff in power, whereas Psychic Fangs does the same thing, but it's stronger hitting. So I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Brick Break go up in power a little bit, but yeah, there's that. We have Upper Hand, which can be used to just deny Fake Out and other priority. So you do have Upper Hand for a little bit of chip damage that can make a Pokemon using a priority move that's slower than Raichu with the Upper Hand. That makes them flinch, so that could be relatively handy. We've got Knockoff for a little bit of item removal utility right here. And then we have Play Rough for a little bit of Fairy type coverage. Actually, we got the normal type moves here. If you wanted to go for a big damage with Giga Impact, I mean, sure, I guess. Unfortunately, outside of Fake Out and Quick Attack, Raichu X doesn't really have the best physical normal type coverage out there. Oh, I guess you got Feint too. So Fake Out is nice because you get, well, it's Fake Out. You basically make something flinch. You have quick Attack for a little bit of priority. And then you got Feint, which can be used to remove Protect and Detect. So other protecting moves, basically, they don't like Feint right there, so you could do a little bit of chip there, remove that, and then Raichu's partner can go for some big, nasty damage. I know I was saying about earlier with Basculegion how it would be nice to see Rillaboom come back and be able to snipe that thing out of the air, but, I mean, hypothetically speaking, if you have, say, a Scarf Adaptability Basculegion ready to go with last respects, and you're worried your opponent's going to protect something important that Basculegion can take off the field, you could go for that Feint with the +2 priority and then immediately bop them with the last respect. So, I mean, hypothetically speaking, not a bad thing to keep in mind. So, yeah, basically Mega Raichu X, it feels kind of similar to Rillaboom and Incineroar with the utility of being able to switch out with Volt Switch, having access to the Fake Out, and then having a big hard-hitting move. In this case, it's Volt Tackle, whereas for Rillaboom, it'd be Wood Hammer, and Incineroar, it would be Flare Blitz. So yeah, I do think Mega Raichu X does have some potential. And another interesting thing here too is, although you do only have base 90 special attack, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen something like this, like say with Tapu Koko, which Tapu Koko has a higher physical attack stat, but not as good options for a physical electric type coverage. Raichu X being able to set up electric terrain might be kind of funny, having Rising Voltage right here, because Rising Voltage will double in power if the target is on the electric terrain. So like you could have that base 140 powered stab move getting boosted up by electric terrain's 30%. But that said, you would have to look into some calculations for that as far as damage goes, because you're coming off of a much weaker special attack stat, which also I didn't mean to jump scare you from my face here. I meant to go one tab down here to bring up Showdown. But yeah, you have that 135 attack versus that 90 special attack. So you might need to run some calcs, but I mean, it's not a bad thing to keep in mind as far as an option goes. Now, as far as Mega Raichu Y goes, we have 160 base special attack, 130 speed, and no guard. No guard is going to make it so that our attacks can't miss, which means moves like Zap Cannon, Focus Blast, Electroweb, they're going to hit accurately, which is nice because you have guaranteed speed control in Electroweb. You have great fighting type coverage coming in Focus Blast, which has horrendous 70 accuracy. And you got Zap Cannon, which is a great stab option, which I genuinely did not think this would be a thing when I made my Raichu Y video pre-Champions. But I mean, hey, Zap Cannon might be kind of funny, not gonna lie. And even Thunder, like, you don't necessarily have to run this thing on Rain anymore. You could have Thunder and just have a strong hitting move right here with 70 accuracy and 110 power. Now, why am I mentioning this versus, say, Zap Cannon? Well, Zap Cannon does hit harder, but on the off chance they throw us a curveball and throw in Wheezing or Galarian Wheezing when neutralizing gas, that would be bad to lose access to no guard. So, I mean, having Thunder potentially as a backup plan if we see Wheezing in the future might not be a bad idea. But, I mean, Zap Cannon definitely looks like the way to go so far. So, definitely curious to see what you guys think about what Mega Raichu Y's got as far as damaging options go, but I'm excited to see that Focus Blast and Zap Cannon. You do have to be a little bit careful with your bulk here because you are super glassy, but if we do see other terrain setters like, say, Indeedee come back, I think Indeedee Raichu Y could be a nice combination, seeing as female Indeedee would be able to go for Follow Me for redirection and have that psychic terrain to protect this thing from Sucker Punch. Raichu Y and Raichu X are both really expensive options here because they're costing you your Mega Slot. You can't run an item, so while Raichu X does have a little bit more bulk, it's still a little bit scary with that base 60 HP. But, I mean, both these Pokemon, they could potentially have some really good potential if set up correctly. Now, as far as Raichu Y goes, that 160 special attack stat, yeah, that 160 right there, that's going to hurt. Like, that's going to max out at 212 on a neutral nature, and you're going to be hitting 200 speed with maxed out speed. So, I mean, yeah, you're fast, you're hitting hard, and even if you don't necessarily want to run the full speed and special attack investment, like, you could reduce some things right here. And I think I saw on Twitter, I think it might have been 2 HP and 10 defense can potentially let you live a Sucker Punch from non-Black Glasses King Gambit. So, I mean, hypothetically speaking, like, even with 20 points of investment on your special attack, you're still capping out at 200. That's effectively running a modest 130 right there. Like, you could do a lot of monstrous damage with that thing. And as far as special attacking moves Go on Mega Raichu Y. Like, in addition to Zap Cannon and Focus Blast, like, you could have a little bit of coverage options right here. You could have that Grass Knot for ground-type Pokemon. You could have Surf to hit the entire field, which, if there's any notable Storm Drain Pokemon coming around, like, eventually we might see Tatsugiri as well. That might be a good way of being able to set up your own special attack stat. But, I mean, for now, like, having a little bit of water coverage isn't too bad, because you could potentially threaten some fire-type Pokemon that aren't in the sun with it. So, I mean, there's that. You've got the Grass Knot for ground, rock. Pokemon aren't going to be loving that. So, you do have that. And also, Grass Knot scales in power with the weight of the target. A lot of ground-type Pokemons are pretty heavy out there. So, you got that. You could have a fully accurate Hyper Beam. Like, if you think Raichu Y is going down and the target is either resistant to electric or just neutral, you could just say, you know what? Let's just throw out the beam. Let's just throw out Hyper Beam and just go for some big damage that way. It's situational, but it might work. It could be funny. You have access to Dazzling Gleam for a little bit of Fairy-type spread option coverage right there. So you do have that. As far as the electric type moves go, like Raichu X, you do have access to Volt Switch. Electro Web is going to be great speed control, not to mention it's a spread option right there. And Electro Ball might not be a bad thing to keep in mind too. I mean, you get a Tailwind up, you run max speed on this thing, you're probably going to be doing a lot of damage, seeing as Electro Ball does scale in power when it compares the speed stat of the target Pokemon with Raichu. So, like, the faster you are, the more damage you're going to be doing. You get that Tailwind up with that base 130 speed. Electro Ball is probably going to be scaling pretty high in your favor right there. So, I mean, not a bad idea to keep in your back pocket. Rising Voltage could actually be kind of funny here too, because if you run into an opponent playing Raichu X, you can zippy zap the rest of their entire team with a Rising Voltage if they're on the ground. So, I mean, you do have that. But we're going to round out Raichu's notable moves here with Discharge, because you do have great spread coverage right here, and the potential chance to be able to paralyze the targets. So Raichu Y has a lot of great special attacking coverage in its favor. And, you know, just another thing to keep in mind too, if you decide you just want to use Raichu as a support mon, you want to use a different Mega Pokemon, base Raichu is not bad with a Focus Sash. You have access to some great status support moves, like you do have access to Encore, so you can lock your opponents into repeating the same moves, especially if they decided to protect in the face of something scary. You have Helping Hand to boost up the power of your partner's damaging moves right here. Let's see what else we have as far as status moves go. We have Eerie Impulse, which cuts the target's special attack 2 stages, so you do have that. You also have access to Fake Tears and Charm, so you can either debuff the special defense 2 stages or debuff the attack stat 2 stages, so you do have that. Honestly, Raichu's got some great support moves right there, and if you pair any of those moves with Fake Out, Electro Web, or Nuzzle, like, you could have a really scary base Raichu as well. Not to mention base Raichu also has access to the Lightning Rod ability, which does redirect away attacks. So if these two Pokemon pop off, you could be seeing some fun stuff with base form Raichu, because, like, you could be pulling away electric type attacks from Raichu X and Raichu Y, full tackle single target, so that'd be kind of funny to pull that away, get a special attack boost. And I mean, you know, going back to what I was saying about the Rising Voltage on Raichu X, I mean, if you run Discharge or Parabolic Charge, any kind of spread move that could hit your side of the field, and you get the electric type rodent set up with Lightning Rod, Rising Voltage might be really scary coming off Raichu X. But, you know, same thing could be applied to Raichu Y. If you have, like, that spread electric type coverage, you manage to hit your partner Pokemon, in this case Raichu, with it, give them a special attack boost, and then Mega Evolve. Oh boy howdy, that could be really scary. But that's more speculation and kind of theory crafting at this point. That's where we're going to cut today's video. Thank you guys so much for listening to me. And don't forget, check out today's partner, Cheeky, to snag some of their moisturizing body soap with my code SHUCKO for 10% off. That's all I got for you today. Catch you next time.